Rick Revel, Mr. History, brought to you in part by Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee. In episode 24 of History Highway, I visited with my good friend David Johnson so we could discuss the evolution of the land between the rivers into what is known today as the land between the lakes. The pristine beauty of the region is mesmerizing, and its history is intriguing. I've shot several videos in the LBL, and I still find something new to talk about each time. While researching my episode on the history of Bigfoot sightings, I ran across Martin Groves, who has written a book about his experience. He claims to not only have seen the Bigfoot creature, but he feels that he and a friend came face to face with Dogmen. In my exclusive interview with Martin, he reveals every detail of the event. And when we return to History Highway, we will hear his compelling story. It doesn't matter if you're a reenactor who loves the smell of black powder in the morning on the battlefield, or a collector who admires the craftsmanship of a well-made weapon of old. Dixie Gun Works has a Pedersoli just for you. And not only does Dixie Gun Works have a warehouse full of Pedersoli reproduction firearms, they have an incredible collection of antique firearms. Inside the pages of their huge catalog, you will find gun parts, shooting accessories, reenactor clothing, camping supplies, and even some big guns if you like to burn a lot of powder. Dixie Gun Works is located in Union City, Tennessee. But for your convenience, visit our online store at www.dixiegunworks.com or call 1-800-238-6785.
In the year of 1993, I was a deputy sheriff for the Robertson County Sheriff's Office out of Springfield, Tennessee. Myself and another colleague, we worked the same shifts, and we had decided that we wanted to, and the way I described it, we wanted to play a little Jeremiah Johnson and get out way out in the middle of nowhere. And so we went in as primitive, and we had chosen a location just outside of Dover into the land between the lakes. And little did I know that due to my poor choice of camping area, that it would lead us into having an altercation with something that is not supposed to exist. Right. And to have an encounter with some creatures that, and in 1993, Bigfoot was not on my radar, and certainly the creature that is now dubbed as Dogman. I had never heard of the Dogman, and Bigfoot was a legend that was spawned from California in my history of my mind.
And lived on the silver screen more than any place.
And Miss Patty lived on the silver screen and had nothing to do with two old hunters in Tennessee.
Now, what was it you went hunting for? Was this a deer hunt or what
This was in the spring, the early month of May of 1993, and this was the wild turkey hunts that they hold in this area. And so we got our permits and we decided to run up to an area that we call now the incident at Rushing Creek. And this was primitive camping, and we had chosen an area that we went deep into the woods. We had driven off 2 or 3 small creek branches and went back into an area that is now, we know, called the Devil's Backbone. I had no knowledge of this area other than it was prime turkey hunting.
Right. That's all you were caring about?
That's all I cared about, and this was an area that we felt that there was plenty signs of turkey, and we were 2 old Tennessee boys that were well-versed in turkey hunting and deer hunting, and so we felt comfortable.
All the signs were there.
This area was very rich in food for the turkeys or deer, and had absolutely zero contact at that time along the ridges. My day went normal. Everything was very kosher throughout the day, and I traveled for quite some distance from my camp. Important part of this story is the fact that I actually met an individual and spoke to an individual along the logging trail, and we exchanged pleasantries. And one of the last things the individual told me, and it rings so deep in my heart, is he told me, he said, "Be careful at nighttime, because I've had something come around my camp at night that stays on the outer edge of the fire of our camp and of the glow of my lantern." Right. So once we said our goodbyes to this gentleman that I later found out was a fireman and I was a policeman, and we said our goodbyes, I continued on, and I began to feel like something was watching me, and I did see something out of the peripheral vision to the side of to my right side, walking back to my camp.
Gotcha.
And there were several creatures, what I thought was extremely very large, coyotes or possibly wolves, that were tailing me. Right. My first indication that really scared me is the fact that as I would be walking and I would stop, so would these wolf-like beasts. They would stop and freeze and would not move. I could not get a good...
They were in stalk mode.
They were in stalk mode.
That's
But being, again, an avid hunter, most things do not stop and freeze. Mm-hmm. That alerted me. At some point on my way back to camp, I got really frightened, and I did finally put a round into the chamber of the shotgun I was carrying. I never was able to identify at the time the beasts that were following me, but in the distance ahead of me, I thought what I saw was a hunter in a camouflage ghillie suit standing in front of me, 200 to 300 yards in the direction of me walking, and I was headed again back towards my camp. The funny thing is that most hunters, when you come across another hunter in the woods, you'll either wave or acknowledge each other just
Pretty
out
normal.
of courtesy, and so that you don't get shot.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, I'm here.
But I noticed this creature, this person, was ducking back and forth from the tree that was beside of him, very large oak tree. Then it disappeared, and it totally, I couldn't understand in front of me with my eyes that this thing had totally disappeared. Where did it go to? Mm-hmm. I continued walking. I continued to hear noise behind me, and I noticed that whatever was following me began to get closer and closer.
Were the size footsteps consistent with what's in front, what's in back? How are you feeling? What are you hearing as far as footsteps?
I'm hearing a lot of things being ripped and torn as it walked, but I could not tell. The one thing I was convinced of at the time was that they were quadrupedal, that they were on all fours.
The war between the states was the most devastating period in American history without a doubt. And during the Reconstruction years that followed, even more senseless pain and suffering was inflicted upon the South. From the pens of the Kennedy twins, who authored The South Was Right, comes a new book titled Reconstruction: Destroying a Republic and Creating an Empire. Within the cover of this 550-page masterpiece are 32 chapters with over 1,200 footnotes of documentation proving that 15 southern states were forced into a torture chamber known as Reconstruction. Existing to this very day, modern-era reconstruction continues to affect everyone, regardless of the color of their skin, in one way or the other. To get your copy of this must-read book, go to www.kennedytwins.com. That's www.kennedytwins.com.
Many years ago, Discovery Park of America was nothing more than a dream for Robert and Jenny Kirkland. Located in Union City, Tennessee, this world-class museum and learning center is second to none. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher planning a class trip, a parent looking for a vacation stop, or an individual who loves history and science, Discovery Park of America is the place for you. From days gone by to the future and beyond, there is something for everyone, no matter your age or point of interest. Since the year 2013, well over 1.3 million visitors have visited our 50-acre, $100 million facility. What used to be a peaceful cornfield in the countryside is now a state-of-the-art destination for you and your family. For more information, go to www.discoveryparkofamerica.com.
As I got closer to camp, I noticed that my hunting partner was already there. And
did you have somewhat of a sigh of relief at that moment?
I did, but the look upon my partner's face was that of, at first I thought it was anger because I had been gone through a long period of time.
Sure.
And it already had gotten dark. And it was very dark as I was coming into camp. And he was upset, one, that I was gone, but he too had some contact in the woods that day where some objects had been thrown at him. We had been in the camp an hour or so speaking and was preparing our food when we had our first real contact, and things began to change very quickly, and it got very scary.
In other words, you went from you preparing your food to feeling that you may become the food.
Exactly. We felt like that at some point we had been put on the menu for whatever that was in the camp. To the right of the camp, we had observed some very bright, what we thought a lighted object where someone was smoking a cigarette. And we had at some point felt like that we were in the area of either hunters or possibly moonshiners. And
which in LBL,
is quite possible
during that day.
We still did not have any thoughts of any kind of a hairy creature that might be wanting to eat us, but our senses were very alert. At some point, we both acknowledged that we had someone behind the tree, and my hunting partner had grabbed his shotgun, and my shotgun was below me at my feet, but I had a firearm on me. A handgun. I had a sidearm that had been issued at the department. And at some point, we started hearing noises above us from the cliff that was right up above us. This is along the trail of the Devil's Backbone. There's a lot of cliffs and a lot of hills. Mm-hmm. And we had objects begin to come off the top of the hill. Now, we have something to the right of the camp. We have something above the camp. We have small pebbles or rocks. We have pieces of tree limbs being thrown off the top of that. And at some point after a tree limb had come down, a very large rock weighing between 30 and 50 pounds come off the top of the hill. It did not roll down the hill. It was quite evident that it had been tossed. Right. It didn't touch the side of the hill, and it landed right in between us. And it was closer to my hunting partner, and we both at that point got pretty freaked out. Keep in mind that we're both police officers, and we have somewhat of an attitude by this point that nobody is going to run us off and nobody's going to run us out of the camp. This is our camp. And we began to probably use some colorful metaphors as to who is behind the tree and what is on top of us. You know, come out. This is not cool to come into the man's camp at nighttime at dark.
So if it's somebody out there, if it's a somebody, you want them to show themselves.
Yes. Make yourselves known.
Gotcha.
You're actually fixing to be shot.
That's right.
That's when we heard a very distinct growl. It had come from behind the tree, and we realized that something was very wrong. So this beast came in off the same trail that I had walked. It was a single beast that was described, I can describe to you, as something that was over between 6 and 7 feet tall. It was jet black and had some gray tint to it, and it stood on 2 legs. It was nothing that I had ever seen before, and it was not supposed to exist. I was in fear of my life and my hunting partner's life, and I discharged my weapon into what I thought was a dead shot into whatever this beast was. I could go into greater detail, but for the purpose of your time restraint, right, when I discharged my weapon, this thing dissipated and totally disappeared. I heard noise go up the hill. I did not see it, and it just totally disappeared in front of my eyes. Wow. The partner behind me is holding a double-barreled 10-gauge shotgun, a 10-gauge Ithaca double-barrel shotgun, and he discharges both barrels into the tree behind us, and we hear a hideous scream, something that can only be described as almost as if it was if you're slaughtering pigs.
Gotcha.
However, the noise was so intense, and we quickly assumed that we only made it mad because it began to tear and rip and tear into a cane brake that was right beside of our camp. At some point this time, we've got something above us. We have something to the right of us. I've just shot at something to the left of the camp, and we jump into a pick-em-up truck, and we decide that it would be a time for a tactical retreat out of this area.
Fall back.
It's time to fall back and get out of here.
Yeah.
You would think the story would end here, but it does not. When my hunting partner jumped up into the truck and I jumped up into the back end of the pickup truck, the headlamps came on. And there were 2 very large creatures standing in front of us that was totally the opposite of what I had seen that come into the camp, and can only be described as 2 large adult Bigfoot. There was no way to make the determination that these beasts or creatures were all the same type or same variant. What was in the field in front of our pickup truck was undoubtedly Bigfoot. What was in our camp were what is described as the beast of Land Between the Lakes or Land Between the Rivers. When the headlights came on and lit them up, the one creature fell down to the ground and went into what we refer now as into a spider crawl, as if it was ready to pounce, even though it was many yards away from us. The second one stared without any fear in its eyes, without any fear or reprisal, that he was not afraid of us.
Right.
That's when we decided he finally got the truck into drive. He had seen them, I had seen them, and it was time to leave.
Looking for a place to go? The Alabama Music Hall of Fame should be the next place on your bucket list. From the Swampers to Nat King Cole. From country music to the blues. There are music legends everywhere. The Alabama Music Hall of Fame is at 617 Highway 72 West, Tuscumbia, Alabama. The Alabama Music Hall of Fame, where the legends live.
When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. You know, my father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't necessary. In fact, none of us had any remote idea that it would ever come up, or we would have done something then. We can't just sit there and react. We have to be proactive.
The Sons of Confederate Veterans is the direct heir of the United Confederate Veterans and the oldest hereditary organization for male descendants of Confederate soldiers. Organized at Richmond, Virginia in 1896, the SCV continues to serve as a historical, patriotic, and non-political organization dedicated to ensuring that a true history of the 1861 to 1865 period is preserved. Membership in the SCV is open to all male descendants of any veteran who served honorably in the Confederate Armed Forces.
The American buffalo, the bison, what a beautiful animal. And it's just, I can hear and see them running down towards the river, thousands upon thousands, and behind them, American Indians chasing them because they're synonymous with each other. The sounds are gone now, but in my new book, Native Voices, you can once again hear the sounds and the voices of the people. Native Voices by David Chaltis on Amazon.com.
Native American Voices by David Chaltis is full of wit and wisdom, straight from the words spoken by the original Americans. Get your copy today on Amazon.com.
The first thing we attempted to do was to report the incident to, at the time in 1993, this was the Tennessee Valley Authority Rangers. We went to the North check-in station, which was closed. It was very late at night. You know, there's a couple Jeeps sitting out front that belonged to the TVA Park Police, but it was closed. My partner did not want to stay, did not want to tell anyone, but I had made the decision it was time to tell someone. So we spent the night and we stayed within the park, and the next day we went out to report the incident and discovered that by 9 or 9:30 we had discovered that the ranger station was extremely occupied, and it was a news media truck that was in the parking lot. There was actually two news media trucks, and
what were they?
We had not known. We had not known, but it had nothing to do with us. But I stumbled in to tell my story that we had fired at some kind of strange beast during the night, and that we were not crazy, that we were actually trained professional police officers, and we wanted to report something that had taken place.
Right.
We were accused of hunting bears, and told that we were just city folks and we didn't know the difference between some type of beast or entity within the park, that these were bears. And they in fact had a rogue bear that was had the mange, and it had been bothering some campers up the road. And we were kind of shucked away and hidden away to the side and told not to speak to the news people who were there. We were held there for a while our credentials were checked and our story was verified and as to who we were. And they took a look at our firearms and stuff. But what we discovered, and what these rangers did not know, that I'm very familiar with this area and I know a lot of the locals, and there was actually a state trooper there, and they had a report that morning. What had taken place is two turkey hunters had stumbled upon this hunter that I spoke of earlier. And they had run across his camp and discovered that he had been predated upon and killed at his camp. The reason why I know now that this was the same person that I had contact with and spoke with was because of his truck. His pickup truck had a fireman, state of Kentucky firefighter tag. He had firefighter decals on that truck. And while I'm standing there speaking to a trooper that I actually knew from this immediate area.
Right.
He said, and he told us the story of exactly what I've relayed to you.
A simple evaluation.
Simple evaluation, and lo and behold, the pickup truck is driven by on the back of a wrecker. It was hauling this truck in.
So that's what the news media was there for?
That's why the news media was there,
was
due to the fact of the death of a hunter in Land Between the Lakes. I have a lot of questions that have been asked of me over the course of a few years that were, what do you think was responsible, and why were there Bigfoot at the camp, and why were there Dogman, and were they working in tandem? And I've had the question asked me, were the Bigfoot there to protect you from these other creatures? And I don't have an answer, but I can tell you this from the course of 30 years of investigating this area. We have in fact found that in many sightings where there are dogmen and there are prints left, we have discovered that Bigfoot is in tandem. And of my opinion, I have based upon this on witnesses, tracks that we have located, and we've had further contact. We had contact in October of 2022, myself and another investigator in this area. We believe, through all this I've described to you, that Bigfoot and Dogman do in fact run together, work together. I have folks that will tell me that they believe Bigfoot is peaceful and that the Dogmen are responsible for any attacks that take place throughout the country or the missing people in the parks.
Gotcha.
I don't know what to think, but any contact that I've ever had in 30 years, I've had numerous contact in this area, I believe that both are apex predator and humans are on the menu.
Humans are on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Martin Groves, I'm totally intrigued by your story.
Yes.
It's nice to see that present day that we have individuals that can share a story just as people from our past and American history can talk about the subject of Bigfoot and other creatures that have walked the earth. And there's the big question mark. What are they? Who are they? Where'd they come from? There's always that question. But Martin?
Very nice to be here with you
Bless
today.
You,
it's good to see you
Appreciate
again,
your
Rick.
time.
Thank you, and God bless you, sir.
We'll be back on History Highway. To get your copy of Martin Groves' Beast Between the Rivers, go to Amazon.com and order yours today.